25 kilogram sacks of coal, 18 to 20 sacks per carcass, 2 fuses for igniting pyre, roll of 1/4 inch nylon, boxes of approximately sized latex gloves, 4 pairs of treadless rubber boots or boots with disposable Tyvek boot covers, 4 pairs of woolen socks, 6 pairs heavy-duty rubber gloves or disposable leather gloves, 4 to 8 pairs of Tyvek coveralls with integral hood, HEPA filter masks and new filters for each carcass. Masks can be full face or half face with safety goggles. Masks may be negative pressure or positive pressure with belt battery powered fan. Disposable N95 particulate masks. Package of plastic garbage bags. 20 liters of human-use disinfectant, 10% bleach solution. Hand pump pressure sprayer to apply disinfectant. Half liter of antibacterial hand soap. 2 rolls of 2-inch masking tape. 2 rolls of duct tape, package of large Ziploc freezer bags, 4 liters of clean drinking water and powdered Gatorade clearly marked, 6 one-man day food ration kits, 3 cans bug repellent, 2 radios for communications between crews and with transport, 2 bear deterrents, and wildfire fighting equipment. Chapter 4. Getting to the site of an outbreak. Once an outbreak is confirmed, disposal teams and woodcutting crews will be identified and sent to the sites. All team and crew members should be aware of aircraft safety. They should have taken the helicopter safety training and passed the department's fitness test for either fire operations or renewable resource officers. The incident commander will arrange for helicopter or ground transportation to and from the carcass sites and staging woodcutting sites. All pilots should be aware of and follow the department's air crew briefing manual. Pilots will conduct aircraft safety briefings for all passengers prior to flights. Pilots are responsible for establishing and maintaining a proper flight watch with the dispatch center. They must also continually monitor designated radio frequencies and report their position every 30 minutes while in flight. Light rotary wing aircraft crew should consist of a pilot and an engineer. To avoid raising large amounts of dust or anthrax spores, pilots are not to hover over carcasses or areas of bare soil. They are to land at least 50 meters upwind or crosswind from any carcass on green vegetation. Pilots must also avoid landing in bison wallows or areas of bare earth where active anthrax spores could be located. All other ENR policies regarding air operations apply. A helicopter bucket sling may be used to chemically treat carcasses with formaldehyde. The bucket and any other part of the aircraft exposed to formaldehyde should be thoroughly cleaned after each use. Fire Management Air Operations will provide an advisory to Transport Canada about the location of the anthrax control zone. A NOTAM, Notice to Airmen, will be issued by Transport Canada advising pilots for control zone rules. Aircraft not involved in the response should be advised to fly above 3,500 feet ASL in the control zone. Team members should be prepared to be in the field every day. The team will leave early in the morning and return by evening. All members should bring a personal day pack along with food and water for the day. Woodcutting crews will assist with loading and unloading helicopter nets used to move wood, coal, and other equipment as required. Chapter 5. Field Testing and Sampling for Anthrax. Anthrax is an infectious disease caused by a bacteria called Bacillus anthracus. Quick response to anthrax outbreaks minimizes the risk to public health and may help to decrease the size of the current and future outbreaks in bison. A positive diagnosis of anthrax can only be made by a bacteriological examination of samples from a suspect animal. This examination can only be done in a laboratory in southern Canada. However, preliminary results can be obtained through a test done in the field and can be used to activate the Anthrax Emergency Response Plan. The surveillance crew generally does the field test for anthrax as soon as possible after detecting a carcass. However, in some cases, the anthrax advisor or the bison ecologist may come in to do the test. Test kits are provided to the regional offices every year. New test kits are received each year, but last year's kits may be used if needed before new kits arrive. The kits are sensitive to temperature and must be kept refrigerated. In the office, kits are kept in refrigerators. In the field, they are kept in a cooler with refrigerated packs, not ice packs. Each kit comes with an instruction sheet, an extended or long cotton swab, a small vial with the chemical required for the test, and the testing tool, which is flat white plastic container with 3 small wells. Kits work only at room temperature. Remove a kit from the cooler a few minutes before using it. Once at the carcass site, the crew sets up a workstation for equipment and clothing at the junction of the contaminated zone around the carcass and the non-contaminated zone away from the carcass. The contaminated or dirty zone is the area immediately around the carcass and is usually defined by a circle of 10 to 25 meters around the carcass depending on the site conditions. The non-contaminated or clean zone is the area outside of the circle and away from the carcass. All equipment and gear is left in the work area at the junction of the 2 zones. Before approaching the carcass, the team member acting as the sampler will put on protective gear in the work area. The other team member, acting as the assistant, remains in the clean zone and handles the test equipment. Before collecting swabs for the field test, now is a good time for the sampler to do a visual inspection of the carcass, take photos, and take an updated GPS point. The assistant unwraps the swab and hands it to the sampler. The sampler takes the swab and dips at least 2 body openings where there may be blood. Generally that is the nose and the anus. The sampler may also cut over the bridge of the nose and then take a swab of blood from that cut. The same swab is used for all 3 samples. The sampler returns to the work zone where the assistant has an open vial of chemical. The sampler places the swab in the vial and breaks off the tip so it drops into the vial. He then disposes the rest of the swab. The assistant puts the lid on the vial, shakes it up, and lets it sit for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, 5 drops are placed into the first well on the test kit. This is marked with an S. The middle well, marked with a T, is the results well. The last well, marked with a C, is the control well. The control well lets the assistant know if the test is working. You must wait 15 minutes exactly before reading the test results. The test is very time sensitive. If the test is working, a line will appear in the control well. A line in the middle or test well means positive for anthrax. No line in the middle well means the test is negative. The test is most reliable on fresh carcasses, ones that have been dead for less than a week. While waiting for the field test results, the sampler will begin collecting samples required for the laboratory confirmation. All information is to be recorded on an anthrax carcass disposal report form. The assistant should pre-label all sample containers with the carcass identification number, date, and sample type before handing them over to the sampler. The assistant hands the sampler 3 swabs. The sampler uses the swabs to take swabs from the mouth, anus, and nose of the animal. The sampler removes the swab from its packaging, being careful not to touch the cotton end. The cotton end is inserted into the body opening being sampled and run over the surface of the opening for approximately 10 seconds. The swab is removed from the opening and allowed to air dry for 5 to 10 minutes by sticking the wooden handle of the swab in the soil a few meters away from the carcass. Once dried, the swab is placed in a labeled sample container, usually a screw cap test tube. This procedure is repeated for each opening. If there is any fluids oozing from the swellings of the carcass, swabs are collected from the opening of where the fluid is flowing. The sampler is given a disposable scalpel, tweezers, and a swab. Using the scalpel, an incision is carefully made across the bridge of the nose of the animal. The cotton end is inserted into the incision and run over the inner surface. The swab is allowed to air dry for 5 to 10 minutes by sticking the wooden handle of the swab in the soil a few meters away from the carcass. Once dried, the swab is placed into a labeled sample container, usually a screw cap test tube. If no other samples can be collected, and there has been a discharge from the mouth or anus onto the ground, a spoonful of the soil around the area should be scooped up and placed in the wide-mouth screw cap jar. It may also be desired to collect turbinate bone samples for testing. The sampler should be careful to have little or no contact with the carcass. If the outer layer of gloves becomes soiled, they should be removed and replaced with clean gloves. The sampler should also avoid stepping in any bison or scavenger feces or any discharge from the carcass. Under no circumstances should the carcass be opened. The sealed sample containers are brought back to the clean station at the edge of the contaminated zone and wiped down with a 10% bleach solution by the sampler. The clean assistant will hold open a labeled sample bag, and the sampler places the swab inside the bag without touching the outside of the clean sample bag. Once all the samples are in the bag, it is wiped down with a 10% bleach solution and sealed in a second Ziploc bag. The bag with completed sample is placed inside a cooler with ice packs. Once the packaging of samples is completed, the sampler should return to the wash station and remove the protective equipment in this order. Remove disposable boot covers by turning them inside out as they come off. Leaving contaminated side covered, drop them in a plastic garbage bag. Spray boots down with a 10% solution of bleach using a garden sprayer and a scrub brush to remove all mud and dirt from the treads. Remove outside layer of latex gloves, peeling them off so they turn inside out. Place them into the garbage bag. If using a disposable N95 mask, remove the mask and place it in a garbage bag. If using a reusable mask with attachable filters, unscrew the HEPA filter from the mask and place the filter in the garbage bag. Remove the mask by the straps without handling the front of the mask. Wash outside of the mask with 10% bleach solution from the garden sprayer. Allow mask to air dry and then seal in a storage pouch. Remove final inner layer of latex gloves, peeling them off so that they turn inside out. Place them in a garbage bag. Spray down hands with 10% bleach and then rinse off with hand sanitizer. Sampler may continue to wear wash boots or can store them and switch to personal footwear. Garbage bags containing used disposable clothing and equipment should be sealed and burned on site. Samples should be forwarded as soon as possible to the designated diagnostic lab. If possible, this should be done on the same day the samples are collected. Packaging and shipping must be done by individuals with training for transportation of dangerous goods and infectious substances using approved sample containers and packaging. The shipper should contact the designated diagnostic lab to coordinate shipment of samples to the laboratory. The laboratory should be contacted to let them know that samples will be shipped and details provided on shipping arrangements and air waybill number to track the shipment.